build our society and wherever we really want to go to transform this land. And that has been the subject of this debate. The question is, do we want to move to this new Jerusalem? Do we want to move to this new El Dorado so that we can, as a people, show that with our own resources, and there's plenty of it, as you see various buildings coming up in this country. And even as you look at 1D, 1F, I think we started the 181 or so 1D, 1Fs around. Nobody thought it was possible, of which 106 are complete around the districts, and 81 odd and more are happening. You can also see what happened with Planting for Food. That has resulted, in a sense, in actually being able to export some food at certain points in time. So that really is a reason. Can we sustain our debt and pay for it ourselves so we don't go out borrowing so much? Can we have the resources to support employment, which is key and affects all of us, and really is very dispiriting and breaks down the dignity of our people? That is not the people that we are. And then can we support our infrastructure to be able to then increase productivity, move around the country, and create that modern society that we talk about.
The finance minister has also been warning of a gloomy economic picture should this tax measure fail to go through. He says the recent downgrade of Ghana by Fitch should be a warning.
And I think people forget what happened when we were in the IMF program. We couldn't pay for nurses and teachers. We couldn't hire anymore because there were restrictions on that. I mean, it's just really thinking you can go back to Egypt in a way in which we have forgotten how difficult and tenacious that master from Washington was. So we can deal with them for them to give us advice, but we need not ever get into IMF program. And if we don't do this e-levy, you are just pushing yourself in a way that would potentially end up in such a disaster. And I mean, there was a warning of that because last week was a very difficult week for the country. Last week we got downgraded by Fitch, ostensibly because they did not believe we could raise the revenues that we had forecasted because we were fighting about e-levy. But what does that mean when you get downgraded and the spreads widen for your bonds? Essentially, what we are saying is that if you go back to the market, you may pay about 500 basis points more, which means that if I borrowed $1 billion, I pay $50 million more each year. The bonds are usually 10 years, and so 50 times 10, that's $500 million a year. All because we were arguing and not being able to make up our mind on resources that we needed. So we need to moderate that, because the consequences are quick. But I'm sure last week there were other things that also were difficult for us as a country. The Bogoso incident was not good for anybody. And then, of all places, Comoros to beat us in soccer. Now that should not ever happen again. I hope the coach has been taken out.
Traditional leaders in the Western region are worried that discussions on the redevelopment of APIATE may die out should any major events come up soon. That explosion razed the community near Bogoso, killing more than 10 people and leaving others injured. Members of the Western Regional House of Chiefs visited those affected by the explosion to commiserate with them, describing the incident as unimaginable.
APIATE explosion, like many other devastating disasters in the country, usually die out soon after new arrangements are made, but only on paper. The Warri chiefs say they will this time show keen interest in ensuring the redevelopment of APIATE as promised by the state is implemented to the latter. Some of them expressed their frustration on what they say may be the possible neglect of the APIATE community soon.
The escort can want 10 bena escort in tram, let 10 bena can in yards. I'm going to use them no with escort in gown. Escort in gown, intimate can. Open some different minds for why did you know?
If you are there, what is it? It's a bishop, you
What bishop may
do not say, you're paying for them. Now, my employer, and we are saying, my company, yet you know, more cars and matter. So I company now, I must have a company. Yes, you know, one can ye. That's a police for ever catchers. A president, I will not get a escort now. As a motive Kobomo, escort no,
The state has since last Thursday put measures in place to assuage the pain and trauma of the people displaced by the incidents. The measures include the settlement of those affected who are now camped at Dumase, which is about 1 kilometer from the APIATE community. Currently, works at the camp, which is to serve as their temporary residence until the resettlement works are completed, is about 90% completed. The paramount chiefs of Esikado Keten, Nana Kobnan Ketia, and Wasa Menfi Traditional Council, Tatrete Okuamwa Sechim, have assured the people and chiefs of their resolve to ensure that a thorough investigation is conducted and the necessary measures put in place to forestall a repeat of such unfortunate tragedies.
I've heard all the concerns raised by Nananum of this area. And they're employing the committee to help them to resolve this issue. And I believe the government is very strong on it. But the committee has a mandate. The committee's mandate is to raise funds and seek a disbursement in a transparent manner. The committee is so involved in reconstruction. But I believe along the line, before you disburse, you have to make sure the right things are done. And I can assure Nananum that I'm with them. And I believe this is why, in the sense, the government had one of us on the committee, being me. So we are on it, and we're not going to sleep over it till everything is done. So now we can get that assurance from me. And I believe I will be able to speak to my committee members to make sure APIATE comes back to life. And this is what we are offering.
This particular thing should not happen anywhere in Ghana. Already we had a closed-door meeting, and we commend the government for some of the actions taken already in terms of the Vice President coming, in terms of the fund, because one of the things we had thought about was to set up a special fund. But the government has set that fund up, and fortunately, in their wisdom, they brought one of our eminent chiefs, who is also a Wasa chief, to be a part of it. So we're going to monitor it closely for accountability, responsibility, and integrity of the fund. There are lots, I mean, we see only the tangibles, but the intangibles can never be replaced. You know, the memories people are carrying with regard to this place, that is what makes this loss. You just don't know what to say, and it hits you. So we're all praying that the best will be done.
For Joy News, in Athalia Kwansa, APIATE.
Let's go to the Volta region now, where the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority has commissioned a service center in Akatsi. The facility would bring services of the authority closer to clients in the southern part of the region. Speaking at the commissioning ceremony, the DVLA's Chief Executive Officer, Kwesi Agyemang-Boisia, said the authority aims at establishing an autonomous institution.
Commissioning of the DVLA office in Akachi brings an end to mobile services provided in the catchment area every 2 months by the Volta Regional DVLA office. The initiative forms part of the authority's decentralization policy to send services closer to its customers, as it has so far established 33 offices nationwide. The Volta Regional DVLA manager, Samuel Lodonu, appealed for the extension of services to the OT region to ease the burden of customers traveling down south to access services.
I would like to make one appeal to the board and management of the authority to establish a DV office in the OT region. since the distance from the communities in the region to Owe is quite far.
The DVLA Chief Executive Officer, Kwesi Ajiman Buzia, said his outfit is envisioned to establish an autonomous, efficient, and sustainable institution.
In the next couple of years, we will continue to build on what we have started with the goal of achieving the establishment of an autonomous, efficient, and sustainable DVLA. There are plans for re-registration of all vehicles and introduction of a third license plate sticker to facilitate further authentication.
The DVLA board chairman, lawyer Francis Davies, emphasized the authority's commitment to customer satisfaction.
Ladies and gentlemen, with our vision, mission, and core values, coupled with our over 22 years of existence as an authority, customer satisfaction is the centerpiece of our operations. It is needless to say that the customer plays an integral part in DVLA's activities.
Whilst acknowledging the DVLA for its achievement, it is sad to note that fatalities on our road continue to rise, mainly as a result of indiscipline. As part of the interventions to reverse the rising trend, there have been a series of stakeholder engagements on the Road Traffic Act 2004, Act 683, and the Road Traffic Regulation 2012, with a view to amend relevant sections to take on board best practices in the road transport industry for the promotion of road safety.
The Aveno Paramount Chief, Togbe Deglo Anuma VI, underscored the impact the service center would have on the districts.
In short, I recognize that the social and economic benefits of the facility we are here gathered to commission today is immense.
The DVLA Akachi office becomes the fourth service center in the Volta region, with the rest three in Ho, Hohwe, and Denu. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Akachi.
Did you know consuming traditional staples processed through solar or sun drying like kokunte could help you maintain optimum blood sugar levels and lower the risk of heart diseases? A research conducted by the Department of Food Science and Technology, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, says foods processed through solar drying possesses lower glycemic index, which is healthy for consumption. Emmanuel Bright Kweku of our science desk has more in this report.
Rabi Mohammed is a konkonte processor at Eija.
We first dry it and then mill it to be used for kokunte and tuozafi. They are very nutritious.
Konkonte Laba Asari Donko shares with me why he loves the delicacy so much.
The other side where people of today, when you mention abetia la prewa kokonte, you know, they will go like, as if they don't like it. But when you go to the chop bar, that's the food that just finished, you know, first.
Studies have confirmed that foods with lower glycemic indices like wheat, oats, and brown rice are recommended foods. You might be wondering what glycemic index is, right? Glycemic index simply is a rating system for measuring how food, when taken into the body, increases blood sugar level. When foods containing carbohydrates are consumed, the digestive system breaks these carbohydrates into simple sugars and then enters the bloodstream. These products, upon entering the bloodstream, may either quickly or slowly increase blood sugar level.
The high glycemic foods are those that will release sugar or glucose very fast into the bloodstream, as compared to the low glycemic index. They do it gradually. So people like diabetics, for instance, would want foods that will release sugar gradually because of the issue with insulin regulation or insufficient insulin. Is that okay?
The researchers, Professor Faustina Dufie-Rekumenu and Yaojewu Atreko, decided to determine the effect of some food processing methods on how starch is made available to the body, and also predicted the GI of some cassava-based traditional staples consumed in Ghana. The food processing methods included boiling, steaming, fermentation and drying.
Okay, as part of expanding our knowledge on glycemic index analysis and the perception people have about cassava-based traditional staples, we decided to also go further to look at the traditional foods, how processing affects the glycemic index of these traditional foods. Cassava, as already mentioned, has a lower glycemic index, around 47 thereabout. But after processing, we realized that some of them used to have higher amount of glycemic index, and people have the perception that they are being implicated in certain cardiovascular diseases like diabetes, stroke, and others.
The research published in the Journal of Food and Nutritional Science established that cooked konkonte with sun-dried cassava flour possessed a significantly lower glycemic index of 40.02%. However, boiled cassava and acheke had higher GI values of 77.30% and 79.05% respectively.
With the konkonte, with that of the solar-dried, the glycemic index was between 60 thereabout, which means that it falls within the medium glycemic index values of foods which normally release glucose but not at very high compared to the higher glycemic index values. Even with that, as I mentioned earlier, the sauce or the soup that is being consumed along also have the tendency to bring the glycemic index down, which will mean that its effect on health will be minimal. Then the sun-dried one gave a unique value, which was among all of them was the lowest. Even compared to the fresh cassava itself, the konkonte sun-dried one was very low, implying that its consumption to all standards should be promoted, and it will have limited or no effect as far as glycemic index or glucose rise in an individual is concerned.
The research work also recommended that food processors should ensure the use of sun or solar drying to produce lower glycemic index food products. From Kumasi for Joy News, Emmanuel Bright-Kweko reporting.
So in Kumasi, hundreds of residents and corporate Kumasi are expected to participate in the Love and Inshira FM Fitness Walk this Saturday in the Garden City. The health and wellness event will take off from the Kumasi City Mall with an aerobic session, and some participating businesses are already promising exciting packages for patrons. Love FM's Mona Lisa Frimpong has more in this report.
Participants of the fitness walk will be walking through selected streets in Kumasi. The event is to get corporate Kumasi fit and healthy for a productive 2022. The walk also seeks to strengthen the bond between Love and Inshira FM and its listeners. It also offers opportunities for socialization and business contacts. Eric Inkum is coordinator of the fitness walk.
In fact, it's going to be fun. So come with the family, your wife, your friends, colleagues at work. Come and let's have fun. Let's walk and have fun as well. You know, your health is your wealth. So come and let's walk through the principal street of Kumasi whilst we keep fit.
The fitness walk involves exercises and aerobic sessions led by Philip Kweku, senior gym instructor at the Pulse Fitness Gym. He takes us through some physical fitness tips.
When we set off, we are going to do stretching, warm-up exercise. You warm the body up before we set off. When we are back after the aerobics, we are going to do stretchings to relax the muscles. And this is not challenging. You are not going to do a marathon or something. On your own pace, I think we have Jama groups, so you can join the Jama group. We have the brass band, you can join them. This is not challenging that we want to see like who will be first. So go on your own pace I think if you are tired, I think we have ambulance, we have some cars who will be going along with us. We just call attention. There may be, if you are tired, you can sit in the car for a while. When you catch your breath, then you join back again.
Some businesses sponsoring the event are looking forward to connecting and treating participants to some goodies.
My name is Abigail Amwakwa Obeng. I'm the CEO of Kokora. They should expect nothing but the best. Kokora is poised to give you breakfast after the hard, exercise, walking. We are poised to give you breakfast to relax you and then to move on throughout the day. Come and enjoy our breakfast and come and have fun.
I think first of all, we are proud to be associated with this year's edition of the Love Fitness Walk. And what patrons should expect from us is that in the last 2 years, we have positioned ourselves as one of the key partners for the SME business in Ghana. And patrons should expect that we'll mount an SME clinic where we will educate patrons on the products and services that we offer at Easeways Savings and Loans.
So we are here at the Kumasi City Mall where the Love FM Fitness Walk is happening. Charlie, come and let's walk for good health. And there'll be refreshments from sponsors, so many networking opportunities. You don't have to miss this because there'll be aerobic session as well. And Charlie, we're going to have fun. So make sure you are here on Saturday for the Love FM Fitness Walk. From Kumasi for Joy News, Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
And here in Accra with the AM News, I am Mapita CBD. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com. The AM show continues with Benjamin Akakpo.
Well, thank you for staying with us. We're getting into the papers and beyond, and we'll also be interacting with Ni Ayi of the Economic Fighters League. He'll be joining the conversation via Zoom. But in studio, we have Manuel Krante. Good morning, Manuel.
Good morning, Ben. Good
You're always looking fly. The handsome man.
Oh, you are looking fly. And it's good to be back. Well, it's already a week.
It's been a week already.
Wow.
Last Friday was the bomb, and here we are again doing this. But right before we get into the papers, there's something we put out as a group yesterday, and it just hit me. When was the last time you changed your sponge?
Hey! Because, fortunately for me...
Yeah, you're in a comfortable lead.
Yes. I had a couple of trips, out of town trips. The ending part.
Simple question. When was the last time you changed your sponge?
This is less than 3 months ago. So, yes.
So thanks to that journey you had to embark on.
I think
prior to that.
The substantive issue is that I changed the past 3 months. And I think we should just stay there. Let's not go back. Let's stay.
Okay. To be honest, I bought my last sponge in... Come to think of it, I don't remember. Now I'm being serious. I don't remember. You know, sometimes you have this affinity, you develop this sentimental attachment to your sponge.
Whoever is in Akapo's house, please, before he comes, you have to take it away from the bathroom.
No. When was the last time you changed your sponge? But we'll be telling you more from the papers this morning. I have the Daily Graphic, the Daily Guide newspaper, Republic Press, and BNFT. What do you have?
I have the Daily Statesman, the Ghanaian Publisher, the Custodian, the Ghanaian Times, and the Finder newspaper.
Okay, so which one are you starting with?
Let me start off with the Ghanaian Times, the most authoritative newspaper. And the banner headline says, APIATE Support Fund President donates 100,000 Ghana cedis towards reconstruction of the community. Also, government pay 14 million Ghana cedis compensation to poultry farmers affected by bird flu. Also on the front page, Ghana's first private jet terminal opens at the Kotoka International Airport today. And MTN Group recommits to help grow telco industry. The back page leads with some sports stories. Kotoko eye revenge over Olympics. Oli Dade, Oli Konson, Oli Rosalinda. Now they added.
There are many more.
Oh yeah, they added Oli Omicron.
Only Omicron. Then go deal with you. Only no size. But some of them are not television friendly.
Yes.
Some of them you can't mention. It's just Oli. Oli Gbogbo.
Yes, and Tunisia captain calls for focus ahead of Burkina Faso quarter-final tie. You know, Tunisia, actually, well, they won just one of their group stage games.
Yep.
And Nigeria won all three.
Yep.
They met in
this life no balance. Oh. This life no balance.
Met in the 1/16 stage and
stumbled to them.
Actually, yes.
But you see, it's there's always this rivalry, if you've noticed, between the North African and West African sides. So I think even when you look at them now, there are 3 West African sides, 3 North African sides. Of course, Cameroon is technically not in West Africa, so they are in a different place. So I think it's going to be competitive. The only thing that I feel will not work for the North Africans is that 2 of them have been paired. Egypt, I think, together with Morocco or something like that. So that will not, work in their interest.
Well, more headlines from the Finder. E-levy public meetings kick off with explanations on intended usage of proceeds. Judge orders ENI Vitol to pay 30% oil revenue to court registrar. And Ghana, key partner in global, regional, economic and security matters. That's U.S. Secretary of State to Vice President Dr. Mohamed Baumia. And also, bird flu affects 695,607 birds in 10 regions. That's according to Dr. Awusu Fiakoto, the Agri Minister. And that story about the president donating 100,000 Ghana cedis to APIATE rebuilding fund, if you like, is also on the front page of the Finder newspaper.
Let's do the Daily Graphic newspaper now. And first private jet terminal opens today. And I'm talking about that which a certain Dr. Daniel Macaulay is behind. That story is on page 20. Introduce innovative ways to mobilize revenue. New Year school urges government. That's on page 13. I'll just take a quick look at that because when we're talking e-levy and the rest, and we're also talking about innovative ways, I want to see what they have to say. So this New Year school and conference has ended in Accra. This year's New Year School and Conference has ended in Accra with a call on the government to introduce innovative ways of mobilizing domestic revenue while cutting down on unnecessary expenditure and wastage in the public sector. It has also been urged to improve on its data collection efforts to help with policy targeting in the future, which will save the country resources to be used for important sectors. You know, the last time we had Dr. Dixon, I believe, the Member of Parliament for Mpoho, he was talking about the fact that, well, the e-levy is crucial to our national development and all of that. But there was also talk about the fact that we need to innovate and go beyond the rudimentary or very common ways of, raising funds. So I'm wondering how they are going to take all of this in moving forward. But staying on that same beat, revenue generation. E-levy, the Member of Parliament was also saying, you remember the 12 billion wastage economically that the Auditor General's report revealed. He was saying that, well, not all 15 billion, so to speak, was as a result of maybe politicians or their workings. There were a lot of things that goes into that, and that there are some errors they found. And so basically the sum doesn't even get to the 12 or the 15 billion in a larger picture. But we all know what happened yesterday. E-levy best revenue generation option, according to panelists. Which panelists? Well, 2 ministers and a parliamentarian have touted the proposed e-levy as the best option for the generation of revenue for national development. Speaking at a town hall meeting in Koforidua, the Eastern Regional Capital, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Ken Oforiatta, the Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Mrs. Ursula Owusu-Ekufo, and the Deputy Majority Leader in Parliament, Mr. Alexander Afenyo-Markin, therefore called for support for the passage of the e-levy bill by the country, by Parliament, so to speak.
And we know that the Finance Minister, in his efforts to engage and consult ahead of the return of the controversial bill to Parliament, yesterday attempted actually to meet the minority in the House. Well, what we're told is that the minority, went into the meeting and asked that the meeting be rescheduled to today because, the argument is that it's not a matter of just camping a number of ranking members on different parliamentary committees,
right,
and all of that, and having the leadership of the minority. There's a bigger, you know, if you like, group.
Well, the picture was, and I think the crux or the thrust of their entire discussion was this, at least from the minority side.
Yeah.
It's not about meeting,
yes,
like you said. It's about being willing to listen and, you know, judge on the matter. So basically, you met us to tell us
what you
that
want.
This is what we're going to do. And that is what, when the minority said, I felt, well, how does that reflect on the bigger picture? Because mind you, the Right Honourable Bagman is going to get medical aid, soon. Again, for about a month, he's going to be away. What that means is you're going to need a certain Joe Osei-Wusu to sit in his seat. Now, if there's an attempt by Joe Osei-Wusu to vote, that is what triggered, at some point, the so it can only lead to more. You can envisage, hopefully not, but you can envisage that it will get there again. Violence will erupt and all of that, and we don't want to see those scenes. So you would have expected that there would be more in terms of the engagement. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be that way, especially also when you have the chief whip on the minority side, Honorable Muntaka, saying that he cannot guarantee that they will not get violent again. I really don't know. I really don't know.
And you see, so there's a report that we have, at least from the Fix the Country campaigners. Well, they say yesterday they were
thrown out
to also participate in this so-called consultation, as they claim.
Did you just say so-called
What they say,
consultation?
I'm just reporting what the Fix the Country movement said. They say they were thrown out. In fact, Oliver Baka-Vomawo alleges that some of his members were assaulted, and they have lodged complaints with the Ghana Police Service and are expecting, speedy investigations into the matter. But again, it brings into question, okay, who was invited to come into this particular consultation? Who were we consulting anyways? And
were we consulting? Were we even consulting? Or was it a house?
There was a number of presentations that I saw. I don't know where if that is consultation, but in Parliament. Well, I saw presentations.
What are you insinuating?
Or did you see something else? Did you see something else?
No, I'm just asking what you're insinuating.
Well, I'm just saying that I saw a number of presentations, and I thought that consultations will essentially be a jaw,
right?
A give and take,
right?
Okay, sharing of ideas.
I totally, I agree with you. I feel through this process that has been the major flaw. It's not been interactive. It's not been kabi, namin kabi, namin chow madre, namin mo who says say namin. It's exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. And I feel that has been the problem so far. Because look, we've been out there in Kumasi and other places. I think it was in Kumasi where about 90% of those we spoke to said, no, you get it. So I feel it must be genuinely consultative if we want to do it this way. And that, we must be willing to listen. I don't think that, look, it's like, I always go back to VAT, how VAT started and the pushback. Because believe it or not, there was not a proper understanding of the value-added tax. But today, it's common. So I think it's about how it's managed. But even where it's being pegged at for a start, I feel it's unhealthy. I just don't have the screenshot here. But yesterday, I saw this bit on another platform where, you look at the equivalents, 100 CDs, instead of maybe 1 CD, now you're going to be paying about 4+ CDs, almost 5 CDs. Yeah. If you're transferring 5,000 CDs, you're going to be paying almost 100 CDs. You know what that is? Yeah. From just 10 CDs, you're going to. So these are the dynamics people ought to know. And if you want us to dig into our pockets, you must also be willing, on the other end, to show us that demonstrably, this year, these are the things we're going to do so that your tax money or your levies are going to be accounted for so that the wastage in the system is cut down. Exactly. But when there's this level of waste and you're still calling on me to, fork out money from my pockets, I look at you like, Well,
the experts are, as it were, sensing a potential clash again in Parliament. Dr. Rashid Rahman, he's Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, and he's been urging Parliament to tone down on disagreements during deliberations and dialogue instead to strengthen the democracy. Here's a quote from him. I expect the House to tone down on disagreements during deliberations and resort to dialogue instead to avoid low moments that occurred last year during proceedings on the floor of the House, end quote. And the flip side of this conversation will be that, well, the minority has said that, we can't guarantee, that we are not going to have a clash if somebody decides to vote when, in our thinking, he should not vote.
Somebody is going to be Joseph Osei-Usu.
Yes. And the majority also, at least we've heard Dr. John Kuma, who's the Deputy Finance Minister, say that with or without the support of the minority in the House, they are going to go ahead and pass the levy. This statement really preceded the consultations that we're now seeing. Finance Minister meeting the minority, Finance Minister holding town halls in Koforidua, etc., and all of those. If you are going to consult us, and ahead of this consultation, you serve us a warning that, hey, look, I come to consult you, but you better behave, because with or without you, we are going to pass it. Then to what end is this consultation anyways?
I don't know whether, I don't know. I mean, pardon my using this word here, but I don't know whether it is ego, whether it is intransigence, or whatever it is. But I feel that from both sides, the NDC and the MPP, they've not shown enough will to bring a conclusion to this. And a conclusion to this must not necessarily mean we have kicked against the e-levy, and a conclusion to this must not also necessarily mean we are definitely going ahead with it. But you see them, like you're saying, digging their heels in, intransigent. Oh, sir, okay, make we do.
We'll see.
And I don't feel, I mean, in leading to Tuesday, okay, and there have been so many attacks, so to speak, and that is what I'll call them. When you say that the speaker is not willing to work with you for, some of the comments that have come, and then the take backs, oh, I didn't say that. I feel that's the same speaker who supposedly would have been sitting, right? How do you think that person would feel knowing that these are the things you've said about? I just don't get it, but I suppose they know things we don't. Are you a member of parliament? Are you a member of parliament? Am I? I'm not.
I am not a member of parliament.
We go do so now.
We wish them all the very best. And Ben, for the sake of providing context, we know that last year the minority made certain demands that the threshold of the 1.75 be brought down to 1%.
But you know that has been thrown out. It's been jettisoned now because
I'm saying that in terms of exchanging, if you like, concessions,
right,
and making sure that I step down on my demands, or you also step down on your demands. There's been an attempt that we know of. Bring the threshold from 1.75 to 1%. Increase the amount taxable from 100 Ghana cedis, upwards.
Maybe to about 500 or 1,000. Yeah.
We know all of these things, but all of them have been, at least with the benefit of where we are now, have been.
You know what comes to mind? I feel opportunities have been lost. Because at that time, when the minority leader, though he wasn't speaking for his caucus, when he interacted with the telcos and all of that, because we had the Tamale Central MP, speak here and say that was in a certain context. It wasn't representative of the caucus. I feel if maybe the majority side had waded into that quickly and said, okay, let's try this out. Let's do it. It may have worked because the minority leader at that time, he was hot on having said that. But now it has cooled off and they are back to, we don't want, in fact, the other day when I was interacting with the Tamale Central MP, he said 0.00%. In other words, nothing. Shit. That is what they want. So right now, I mean, the work is cut out for the majority side in Parliament, and we'll see how it works out. But that feeds into something else. You wanted to chip in something?
Well, I want to take you to APIATE.
Before we go there, how do you react to this bit on myjoyonline.com? Muntaka Mubarak, the chief whip, saying, we have moles in the MPP's camp. In fact, the same moles who helped us win the speakership.
Race. And I mean, if you are privy to parliamentary proceedings and the rudiments really in the House, this is really nothing.
It's not new.
Because essentially, the whip's job is to be able to you know,
get your people to do the right thing and then infiltrate
sure,
if you can.
Exactly. And Muntaka Mubarak, you know, rightly admits that, you know, I know also that there are moves in my camp for the benefit of the NPP.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is pretty normal. But to the end that, and it gives me the sense, so he makes an argument on the back of this sort of infighting, if you like, and some of the MPs being disgruntled because they are not put on certain committees that they ordinarily would have.
They didn't get, you know, they had been lobbied for certain ministerial roles and they were dumped all of a sudden. So
and so this is sort of, you know, these are weaklings and, you know, some openings that you could actually exploit for the benefit of your side. But it brings into question, really, the independence of our MPs in the House. I mean, what sort of parliamentary system are we running? Are we running, you know, a trusteeship system where, you know, we have asked them to go to Parliament and do whatever they think that is good for us?
But let's face it, even in very established democracies, whether it's in the UK and the House of Commons and the House of Lords, or in the US, the Senate or whatever, or the Knesset in Israel, these whipping systems exist. It's just that I feel they have an ability, or at least their systems allow them to be able to express free thought, but not without consequences. You've seen former President Trump go after certain people for not doing a certain line. So, I mean, there are pushbacks, but I feel in the end, these people ought to do what they do, bearing in mind the people they represent, their constituency. And I feel that is where they are missing the plot. Because look, I feel if we conducted a poll in this country today, or some sort of referendum, let me just put it that way, those for the e-levy say aye. Those against the e-levy say nay. And I feel it's because proper education has not been given still, and I feel it's been too much of this is it, and you have to accept it. I feel those problems are even making some people who would have supported it sit back and say, look, how can you just force it down my throat and think I'm going to swallow, you know? But it is what it is. Let's check out some more papers.
Well, let's look at APIATE, and let me take you to page number 17 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And you know that relief fund that was established for the victims of APIATE, and on the center spread of the Ghanaian Times, APIATE Support Fund, President donates 100,000 Ghana cedis towards reconstruction of community. And the President Akufo-Addo has pledged to make a personal donation of 100,000 Ghana cedis to APIATE Support Fund established by government to support victims of last week's explosion at APIATE in the Western region. Now, the fund was established by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to raise money to rebuild the village and support victims of the explosion. Now, the accident, which claimed 17 lives and caused injuries to hundreds of people, occurred when a truck carrying explosives for mining detonated after an accident. So it goes on to give other details of this particular story. But now it's a call to action, essentially, being led by Reverend Dr. Mrs. Joyce Ayi, who is chair of this particular committee tasked to raise funds. My problem, however, and we've had our hearts go out to the APIATE victims. We'll support where we can. But the funds need to be used for what they are intended for. And there's a relation that...
Isn't that the major problem with even when there are occasions for us to, you know, for NADMO and co to step in? How many days after the APIATE incident had those affected not received? In fact, there were items that had been taken there, not yet distributed. By what stretch of imagination? So someone could die, suffer certain dire consequences on the back of the fact that not a lack or a paucity of the items, but the fact that they've not been distributed. How does that make any sense?
Ben, you don't need to go far to say that someone could. In fact, what we know from the ground this morning is that per medical assessment by ENT, doctors on the ground, a lot of the people on the, in the community are now having ear infections. You know why?
Why?
There were prescriptions for them after their initial diagnosis.
Of course, that loud explosion.
Exactly. There were prescriptions for them. They're supposed to get the medications. They could not get the medications. And so in a span of a week, a lot of them, are now having ear infections, with some of them showing, mild to moderate signs of, muteness. Some of them cannot talk. Some of them cannot hear. And it's all because there's been a laxity, really, in the deployment of medications which were prescribed by the doctors after the initial medical assessment. And so already,
the impact is being felt. Some people are nearing deafness simply on the back of the fact that
delay in
timeliness was not paid attention to. And that reminds me, even the bit about distributing items, right? You remember the Ghana Psychiatric Association had to step in, intervene. Mind you, the first time they went there, I don't know whether they've been there again, all the things that were taken were basically with assistance from the GMA and all of that. No assistance from establishment as it stood. And per their report, some people are contemplating suicide. Some people are getting suicidal on the back of that, which is, it happens on the back of these incidents. So if much needed help doesn't come rapidly, then you know that you could push someone to the brink, and what would we have done as a system? So I think...
And I think we need to commend the medical officers who are on the ground assessment, except we need to be, timeous, really, with some of these interventions. And I was going to make a reference to the COVID-19 Trust Fund, the same National COVID-19 Trust Fund, which solicited donations from the public, from corporate Ghana, and so on and so forth. It will shock you that after an audit and so on into the usage of the funds, about 40,000 Ghana cedis is doled out to not somebody with COVID complications, not a hospital needing, consumables, medical supplies, and all of those, but to the National Union of Ghana Students for its annual leadership conference and handing over event. The National COVID-19 Trust Fund, with a direct, TOR and means of usage and all of those. You get the money to National Union of Ghana Students. For what? A leadership conference and handing over. And so,
do you honestly want me to comment on this?
No, you don't need to comment.
Are you looking for trouble for me?
I hope.
No,
but I hope against all of the hopes that the APIATE relief fund or support fund will be disbursed really just as it has been intended to do, and really timeously.
Let's do this, and just to wrap, Manuel, I want to do this story from the BNFT. July deadline for Bank of Ghana's Ghana Card Directive too close. That's according to customers. I don't know how you feel about this entire development, but yesterday I was interacting with someone who had just attempted getting the Ghana Card, not for the first time, and the date when she must go for her biometrics is in June. Okay. Now, looking at all these dimensions to the conversation, because you also need your Ghana card to re-register for your SIM. I hear there's been some sort of extension and all of that. I think yes, maybe the point may be that the March thing and now June, we're trying to get a lot of people to rush and register. That's okay. But I think this must be a rolling thing. The SIM card re-registration and the Ghana card bit, it must be a rolling thing, because the way it's going, it doesn't look like, even in terms of resources, in terms of timeliness, we can achieve our target. So let's stop pressuring people. I've seen very old people going into long winding queues, getting upset and all of that. To what end?
Really? I think it is noteworthy, and of course worthy of mentioning this morning, that following the interventions by the telcos and then also the National Communications Authority, there's been a significant improvement in the registration processes. We are now seeing some of these registration officers going to companies, going to churches, going to schools, and so on and so forth. And so the pressure really is not so much on the outlets of the operators. However, having gone through the process for my telephone numbers, I think this exercise could have been done by myself in my house. I did not need to go and queue for anybody to do, because really, a mobile phone taking pictures of my fingers. I can't take pictures of my fingers.
I mean, these apps are big, but I guess it's about the suspicion about whether maybe the people would be giving you the correct details. And you'll be in a fingerprints, no BB app. I mean, all of those come into play. But next time, don't get six different phone numbers.
Agenda. Please, I know how to say them.
You have, I think you even have 7.
One yam, 2 SIM.
Anyway.
2 SIM China yam.
Well, this is where we draw the curtains on the news review. Mano Karate cracking me up. Coming up next, we have sports for you, and we'll be getting into our big stories on the AM show. Don't you go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back from sports. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Now, it's all about ending road accidents. But have you ever considered this? According to the Upper West Regional Director of the DVLA, out of a total of 1,214 clients who took part in the theoretical test in the region, 32% of them failed. Again, 19% of the 988 persons who took part in the traffic test also failed. What's the picture nationwide? How do we tackle this? Let's watch this report from the Upper West correspondent, our Upper West correspondent, Rafiq Salam. It will paint the picture for you.
Director of the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, Zuma Thomas, briefing board members of the DVLA on their operations, revealed that 68% and 81% of clients who took part in Upper West Regional Director of the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, Zuma Thomas, briefing board members of the DVLA on their operations, revealed that 68% and 81% of clients who took part in terror and traffic tests, respectively, in the year 2021, passed.
Our terror test, not all terror exams must qualify automatically. We made 1,240 passes and then failed 572. That 32% and 68. If you look at it in the chart, the demonstration is clear, 32% and then the 68%. In traffic test, we had 988 and 81, that's 81%. And the fail is 232.
Zuma Thomas spoke of the financial gains made in their operations in the last 3 years.
We look at 2019, we made 727,920. In 2020, we grew marginally to 793,320.50. In 2021, we had 877,222. That is for road fund. You look at the variance between the years 19, 20, and 21 is 84,404.50, a growth of 11%. Our licensing duties, one of our operational areas, in 2019 we made 574.485. In 2020 it shot up to 807,827.70. And in 2021 it went to 587,363. If we look at the variance, it's 50,538,050, a growth of 6.26%.
Interacting with staff of the authority, board chairman of the DVLA, lawyer Frank Davis, noted that due to the efficient, effective, and professionalism exhibited by staff of the DVLA, it is touted as one of the foremost institutions in the country, evident in the number of awards back over the last few years.
That you, the staff, and the employees all over Ghana have now understood the work ethics, discipline, and culture of service that this authority prides itself for. We are no longer in the league of corruptible institutions. We stand tall. And so far, we have chalked a lot of successes and have won coveted trophies.
Deputy Chief Executive Officer of DBLA in charge of financial services, Kwame Appiah-Kubi, opined that due to innovation and technology, they have been able to minimize the activities of middlemen, popularly known as Goro boys.
I think DVLA, we believe that the issue of Goro, we can solve it with technology. So if you've seen how we've actually improved or improve our services through IT, now it will come to a time that there wouldn't be anything for you to do. We know with IT we'll be able to solve this issue, and you can testify that now with Goroism is better than before. And now I wouldn't say that we've completely eliminated it, but you see with few time or few years to come, you see that if it's not removed, it will become a very minimal. So with technology, we are going to solve the issue.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
So that is the picture. But how do we fare, or how are we faring on a national scale? We get into this discussion as we interact with our guests this morning, who are going to be sharing their thoughts with us on the state of affairs when it comes to, the testing we're going through and how it is reflecting nationally, how this is impacting the sort of accidents we have. Our guests, Henry Asumaning, he is with the NRSA. He is Senior Manager Planning and Programs at the National Road Safety Authority. We have Kafui Semevo, Director, Driver Testing and Licensing Authority, that is the DVLA. And then Cecil Gabra, a transport consultant and CEO, Top Tech Transport and Logistics. We get interactive with them. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning.
So I hear only one. Is that Kafui?
Yeah, good morning. This is Kafui. Good morning. This is Cecil.
Cecil, okay. So we have Cecil, we have Kafui, we have Henry. Do we have Henry? Okay. So we'll get to Henry as and when he patches through. But let me start with you, Kafui. These details we've been given and the numbers, do they come as any surprise to you over the years that you've been at post? These numbers that are being churned out from the Upper West region, any surprises in there for you?
If you look at the numbers that you have received, of course there is.
Kafui, if you could just speak up a bit, increase your pitch a bit. I'm struggling to hear you.
You're struggling to hear me. Is it better?
Slightly better.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So if you look at the figures you have for the test, which is the driving test, and that is theory test, I saw it.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, I have seen some improvement in those figures, and basically surprising because that section of the country do not have a lot of driving schools like we have down south, and therefore the number of persons who go through the driver training at the various driving schools do not have the advantages we have down south, and therefore if they are taking the state test with persons down south and they are almost having the same pass rate as the people down south, of course it is surprising, and it is just because there are certain measures that have also been put in to ensure that they are not too much deprived of the opportunity to also have training before the test is done.
Okay, so too quick.
Lower than that.
Right. Some quick interjections. So the suggestion then, from what you've just said, is that this 32% failure rate when it comes to the testing, at least the theoretical testing, and all of that. You're suggesting that this is at par with what we find down south, where there are more logistics and opportunities for people to train when it comes to driving. So there's not too much of a disparity then.
There's not too much of a disparity between the three.
Right. Can you give us a fair idea? So let's take the Greater Accra region, for example. Down here, what do the stats say when it comes to the theoretical examination and the pass rate? What can you share with us on the back of that? I mean, I just want to for us to have some sort of measuring scale.
The Greater Accra region, for instance, is around 80% pass rate.
80%, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So some parity there. You mentioned that in the Upper West region, it's also on the back of some measures you have put in place to ensure that they are not too deprived. Measures like what exactly?
All right, so because we do not have the same, a lot of training schools, we collaborate with the existing schools to ensure that they also provide training for everybody who goes in to apply for the driver's license. Now, what is done is sometimes they will have to go with our team to the various communities and provide the training because the numbers are less and they are sometimes far from the communities. And we have an outreach program. So they do go into the communities to provide training. And the numbers you are seeing also include motorbikes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So motorbikes in there. It would have been interesting to know what component goes into the motorbikes, especially because in the last few years, a lot of our road traffic accidents have involved motorbikes. Last year, over 40% of them. So it would have been interesting to know what component of those who failed, for example, factor into motorbikes, and those who passed that factor into motorbikes. But let me come to Cecil. So looking at this picture that has been painted and with the failure rate, for you, is it a cause for worry? Kafui says this is reflective of nationally what we see. It doesn't imply that the northern belt is faring any worse than you have in the southern belt, even in Accra. Cold comfort for you? Hello, Cecil?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Did you get the question?
Okay. Yes, I got it. Right. It's quite unfortunate with figures from the northern sector, but I don't blame the situation because it is not so easy for people to just set up a driving school. I have been the past president of the Association of Driving Schools, and I know what goes into it. It is not just by buying vehicles and getting them dual pedaled and so on, but a lot must go in staffing. And then if you pick an instructor, trained instructor, and then the training is provided by DVLA. Right now, what really happens is that it becomes quite difficult to maintain such an instructor. So obviously that instructor will leave your driving school, right, okay, if you don't pay him well. So up the north, I know there are a lot of financial difficulties, growth of the economy. It is not like those of us in the south. So I can really understand it. And I feel we should have a collaboration that is with DVLA. I'm talking about the Association of Driving Schools. I'll be speaking with them. That it is not up to DVLA to go and do the training. It is up to we, the trainers, to go up the north to assist them to know much about driving, and then we'll be able to write their theory examinations. It's quite worrying because of the quality, because such a person who may fail will obviously still be driving, and then that will be quite dangerous on our roads. And for instance, if a simple road sign which says no U-turn, and this driver who drives, driving is quite easy. I started driving at the age of 13 years, but keep quiet, please.
Well, you just said it live on air, Cecil.
Yes, well, at those times, early Early those days, it was much more easier. You see, when your dad had 2-3 vehicles, and then you could just hop in it. But that is not driving. Driving comes with a lot of topics. For instance, when I was the president of the association, I made sure that my executives collaborated with DVLA to come up with topics. We have 18 topics, theory topics that you need to cover before you start even driving. Before even DVLA will give you a learner's license. I mean, that was the whole idea. Go to the driving school, learn, and then the topics will not be just like sit in the vehicle and move. I mean, we're talking about first aid. We are talking about driving under the influence of drugs.
Right.
And alcohol, where you have an expert, like a medical doctor teaching you and so on. I mean, it's going to be difficult up the north to have all those people, and it's expensive to pay a medical doctor for maybe 2 hours, a first aider for about 4 hours to come and teach maybe only 4 people first aid. So I think we need that collaboration to help those people from the north.
Right. So this is from where you sit, this is what you see. We can do even more. But according to CAFWE, like I said earlier, this is none too different from the results we're getting in the Southern Belt, including the Greater Accra region. So is it as much as a problem as you are depicting now? I mean, looking at and we'll get into the bit about the national averages, but is it that much of a problem that we're having 32% of those in the Upper West region failing the theoretical test? That means 68% passed. And again, on the other end, when it comes to the practical bit, 19% of them failing, which actually shows that 81% passed. Is it that bad?
Well, it is very, very serious. Like I said earlier, it is serious. I mean, if you compare the South to the North, obviously there's a lot of business in the South, and there's even competition amongst the driving school to say who must be the best, who should have its own student drivers passing examinations and so on. It is really worrying. And then all these people, just like I said, are driving on their own, and they are not. Enforcement agencies will occasionally check to find out whether they have licenses and so on, but they are driving, which is really dangerous.
Okay, so that's a good angle to look at it from. And I'll come back to you, CAFWE, after I engage Henry on a very important question, but just hold it there. Henry, so listening to both parties, Cecil has raised his concerns about the figures we're getting when it comes to the theoretical and practical tests. CAFWE says, yes, there are problems, but we're working at them. They are not as bad as you may see at first glance. What picture does this paint for you, Henry, when you look at the fact that we're putting road safety side by side or conjoined with these results we see? Because garbage in, garbage out. The people you get, passing or whatever, it's going to reflect on how they drive on the road. What is your take on these figures?
Thank you very much, and good morning to our viewers and listeners. Excuse me, because I didn't really hear what Kathy was saying before I came online. But
so just to aid you, Henry, CAFWE said that looking at the statistics, it's not that they are excellent. Of course, there's work to be done. But basically, they are not too far off from what, pertains to the Southern Belt. And in the Southern Belt, we have more logistics here in terms of drivers training, in terms of the driving schools and all of that. That was basically what he was saying, that if you consider the figures, 32% failure rates when it comes to theory in the Upper West and 19% when it comes to the practicals in the Upper West, it's not too far off what you would see in the Southern Belt. Cecil, however, I'm sure you heard him, was saying that it is a big worry because if any driver is, not properly trained, or if the person is not fit to be on the road, that could lead to disaster, aka an accident. So that's the thrust of what we've shared so far.
Okay, thank you very much. What I know is that if you go through the DVLA, the driver testing and testing system, and you fail, you don't become a driver on the road because you would have to go back and retake the exams until you pass before you are allowed onto the road.
Exactly.
I think that's the right. So when there's a failure rate, which yes, it's true, in natural sense, I think it's also on the high side, then it means that these people are not part of the driving population of Ghana. So they are not considered when it comes to these drivers who we have on the road, because the drivers we have on the road are licensed drivers who have gone through the system and passed these exams before they are allowed onto the road. So if it comes to the road safety situation, we know that sometimes people without driver's licenses do drive on our roads, and people with expired licenses do drive on the roads. But this is where the enforcers come in, that the Ghana Police Service, they come in to check that every person on the road is a licensed driver, and as soon as the person is able to prove that he is a qualified driver by showing a valid driving license, the assumption is that that person has his or her exam to be on the road. So when it comes to the people who are failing, it's just like any other exam. When you fail, you are not promoted. You are not part of the body. That's how it is. So you are not a driver on our roads when you have failed the exam.
Right. That brings me to another crucial question, and I'll address this to Kafui because you are in the thick of things. When it comes to the DVLA, we keep getting reports that, sometimes some of the people, they will pass because, in fact, there are certain things that are done, maneuvering. The Goro boys are no longer in the system thanks to some digitization and all of that. But there are still ways, apparently, that people are employing to ensure that they get licenses, they get their roadworthy certificates without actually having gone through the processes as they ought to. Has that come to your attention?
All right, thank you. Let me just make some clarification before I respond to that. So if we go back to the figures, you see that the number of persons who pass or go for the total number of persons who go for the theory test, for instance, are more than the persons who go for the practical test.
Yes, that is true. It's reflective of even these results.
Now, that clearly tells you that even the economic reason is also cited. It's part of it, because the licensing process is divided into two, where you obtain your learner license, do your theory before you go for the practical. And then, so the payment regime is in two stages. People are able to pay for the first stage, and then they are not able to raise funds for the second stage. So if you see the disparity, you see that most of them will not come to complete the second stage.
Right.
And that is where I agree that the collaboration needs to be strengthened, and then we find a solution to it. Coming back to where people do not get through the system but obtain a driver's license.
Basically, they go through the back door.
Now, if you go through our system today, you find out that you cannot start a process for driver's license and not go through the process and obtain the driver's license. If you do that, we always have the back office of the team who always will look at the data that comes in, verify if each person has completed what the person is supposed to complete before the license is issued. So today, anybody who has attempted to obtain a driver's license without taking the test, and what we have done also is to interface our printing system with the test system.
Right.
So once you finish your theory test, your results automatically will move into the printing system. So we are able to see whether you took a theory test or not. So they are not standalone systems. We see where we may have they still have some human interference will be the practical.
And I was about to get to that. I was about to ask you, Kafui, whether you were sure that all of those who were passing the practical test actually had even got behind the steering of their vehicle and gone through the test, because there are so many things we know about that as well. But you make your point.
Yes. So, is a theory is an in-traffic test where we are paying more attention to. Now we have two categories of drivers we license each time.
Right.
We have people who started driving before going through the driving school and coming for the test. And then we have the totally novice drivers. The novice drivers, we don't have much problem with them because they always will follow the procedure. And if you're a novice driver and you sit behind the steering and you don't know how to drive, you are never going to move that vehicle, so you not even pass. Where we are paying attention to most today is those who are driving already and who go for the driving test. We realize that some of the tests do not cover the total requirement. So yes, of course, they appear for the test, but there is a standard time and standard observation for everybody who go for a practical test. So for instance, if you are driving already or you're a novice driver, your test is not supposed to last less than 25 minutes. And there are routes that have been demarcated that you are supposed to drive on for whoever is testing you to observe. We are doing some review where what we have done now, before the review will give us what we should implement, is we have rather strengthened the monitoring. So we visit the test grounds most often. Now, the other thing we are doing is that the test itself is going to be scored electronically. Because you observe that sometimes somebody may go for test, and because it is manual, the possibility of somebody changing results is high. We are moving to the stage where we will score this test electronically, and then we ourselves are involved in the monitoring, and we do unannounced visits. We also are putting in some mystery shopping mechanisms just to identify those who may be compromising the test.
Right.
Yes, so those are the things we are doing for now.
I'll come back to you on more substantive matters, and hopefully you'll be able to curb this, menace, so that as many drivers as possible are going through exactly what they ought to go through, so that at least with that knowledge base on the road, they will do the right thing. But Henry, I just want to, on the back of what I've just discussed with Kafui, yesterday it was like an action movie of sorts, right in front of the multimedia group Joy FM. We had this gentleman in a Sprinter bus, and apparently what we found out was that he had hit a lady in her saloon car and was trying to get away, and he went past some 5-6 vehicles, sped past. It was so bad that he was going at top speed, nearly rammed into some other driver in an Audi vehicle, and he was heading towards the traffic light, the Atinka traffic light. I don't know whether he was eventually apprehended, because the lady in the saloon car then followed, also speeding after him, trying to get him to stop. You have drivers like this bus driver who, and I couldn't verify whether he had a license or not, but if he were licensed, you have drivers like him on the road, sometimes endangering the lives of practically everybody else. How do we deal with the situation from a road safety perspective, conjoined with the DVLA? Because these people are licensed. How then is it that they are able to renew their licenses, yet they can do such things on the road? I mean, I don't know whether you get where I'm going with this, but how do we deal with such situations?
Thank you very much. This is what most road safety experts have been talking about, the attitude of road users, especially the driving population. It is a well-known fact that when you are involved in any crash, be it minor or major or serious, the first thing you need to do is to call on the Ghana Police Service, the NCCD, who would come and do their initial investigation, and then there's a process that is followed. But we have some recalcitrant drivers or road users who, when such things happen, because maybe they know that it is their fault and they would eventually have to pay for the damage, would want to just run away. But one thing I would want everybody to understand is that when it comes to Ghana, the traffic laws, that's why we have the insurance. And minimum for every vehicle is the third-party insurance. In the case that you get cited, if this driver had just waited, reported to the police, and the police had done their investigation and even found him to be at fault, the insurance company would have taken over the cost of repair for this lady. So sometimes maybe it's the understanding of insurance, and also we know that there are some drivers who do not have this valid insurance. And as I said, when it comes to the ones who do not have this valid documentation, that is where the Ghana police comes onto the road to check. And if you are found culpable, you are prosecuted. But as you said, you couldn't interact with this driver, so you don't know even if he had a valid insurance or not. But the assumption would be that so far as he's on the road, he has a valid insurance. Let us try and let people understand that with a valid insurance, even if it is your fault, the insurance companies would come in and bail you out. Even when it is third party, whoever you hit would be taken care of by the insurance. And if it is preventive, your vehicle would even also be repaired by the insurance. And it is for these reasons, because we know that as we all use the road, there are sometimes that's why it used to be called accidents. Sometimes they are unavoidable accidents. But when they happen, you should be able to be cushioned, and that is why insurance comes inside. So let's all understand that when these things happen, let us just report to the police, allow the police to do their investigation, and then if I am at fault, the insurance company would come in and bail me out.
So obviously,
there's this understanding that maybe people, because sometimes people would crash into a vehicle, when you look at it, you know, even the light itself, you cannot buy. So you intend to run away rather than stay and solve and face the issue. But that is why there is insurance. And that is why we should always have valid insurance certification, so that these things, we won't worry ourselves about it. So this driver with a valid insurance should have just reported to the police, and whatever the cost may be, the insurance would have taken out. It's all.
Right. So that point is clearly made, but that in itself also creates a problem, and merely for the sake of education. It is criminal, isn't it, when there is such an incident, motor accident, and no report is made. You are aware that some people settle their own differences between them. You know, sometimes it's a gentleman's agreement, especially if it's between two men who would say, you know what, I've taken your license plate number, maybe I've taken shots of your license itself and all of that. I'm expecting that you do X, Y, Z. And they settle it there. What that does is it also doesn't give us a proper picture of the number of accidents, for example, that we have in a year and all of that. How problematic is that?
If you are going into a gentleman's agreement, you need to still inform the police. And when the police comes, he will take his notes. Then he would also note that you have agreed to do 1, 2, 3. Why it is necessary is that, let's say I'm involved in a crash with you.
Right.
And then I agree that, okay, it's my fault, so I'm going to do ABC. But we just have a gentleman's agreement without the police involvement. When I leave and I am not doing it, it becomes difficult for you to push me. Because, yes, we agreed, but you can't even find me to do it. Because, one, you cannot seize my license. But when the police comes in, and we even have the gentleman's agreement, what the police would do is that they, depending on the situation, they may seize my license or impound my vehicle until I have done what I said I would do for you before they release it back to me.
Right.
You see, so I would urge everybody that even if it is a gentleman's agreement, involve the police so that when anything goes wrong, the police can step in. But if you do not involve them and now things are not going as planned and you want the police to come in, it becomes very difficult for the police because they are not in the know from the offset. They don't know
it's a valid point you're making, Henry, but look at the other side as well. I mean, I interact with a lot of people, so you get to find out. Some people would tell you once the police comes in, sometimes even the two vehicles are impounded, and for quite a bit of time, and the processes to follow. For about a fortnight, you don't have access to your vehicles and all of that. And should that be something we ought to look at in the police process itself? Or is it because these are reasons people will give you sometimes and tell you, I don't want to go through all that.
No, but I want to just explain. You
Right.
see, when the police impound these vehicles, it is when the police need to do a report, establish who is at fault. But when we are talking about gentleman's agreement, that one I have already agreed.
Right.
So they don't even need to do investigations. I have agreed. But they need to ensure that it is stated, and I have signed to the fact that I have agreed that it is my fault, and that I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. As I said, depending on the severity. Sometimes, in some situations, the gentleman's agreement does not hold because of the circumstance leading to it and whatever happens.
Right.
But in cases where the gentleman's agreement holds, what the police will do is that whoever agrees that he or she is at fault, the police would hold on something that the person may have to come back and pick up, because if they just leave you to go and you don't do it, finding you becomes an issue. So what they would do is, as I said, depending on the situation, they may seize some documents or impound vehicles. Then, when you have done what you said you would do, then they would release it to you.
Right.
So there's a difference between when there's no agreement as to who is at fault, because that one is an investigative procedure where the police would impound the vehicle. They would even call on DBLA for assessment. There's a procedure to follow. So that is different from the one that you agree that, okay, it's my fault, I'm going to repair the vehicle. That one, your vehicle be the one who is affected. If I have agreed to repair his vehicle, what they normally would do is that they would tell him, if he has a mechanic, to do an assessment, and then if there's an agreement, I would take something. That's how they do it. It doesn't take that long when there's no issue about who's at fault.
And I brought up this bit for educational, purposes. So it is good you've painted that picture. So anyone who is thinking, oh, once this happens, my vehicle is going to sue, let's just have a gentleman's agreement, which may not necessarily pan out the way you want. Think twice. Involve the police. Let me come to Cecil. And I've intentionally held you for a while because I wanted you to hear from the other sides so that the next few questions I would ask would be more relevant and you can delve into them properly. I would start from the end of the Ghana Highway Code, which goes as far back as, if memory serves, to 1974, thereabouts. And I just want you to look at its relevance in terms of the dynamics that have changed, even our roads have changed in a way, and even those who pass the exams, how this reflects on them in terms of a very modern world and what we're doing in Ghana. Is our highway code even apt as of today? And what are the challenges you may see in them? Hello, Cecil?
The Ghana Highway Code. I am here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, I've always been talking about the Ghana Highway Code. Some of us are very old drivers, and I feel it's an opportunity for us to add a lot to the Highway Code, to make it new, to make it much more interesting than just to have that small booklet. Well, of course, all over the world, highway codes are not bulky.
Right.
But the sad thing is that we have the same words from 1952. in the highway code.
Right.
Same words, just few changes. And then if you look at the dates that was published, it's 1974 when Ghana moved from left to right.
Right.
Okay.
So in essence, from the 50s, we've practically been using the same thing till 2022.
Precisely. There are so many dynamics in driving. If you talk about road markings, okay, we don't have all the road markings in the highway codes.
Right.
When we talk about road signs, we don't have all the road signs. We need instructions, proper instructions. But the thing is that do people read? People don't really read. That's also one thing. But then for us as trainers, we always say that every day in your life, at least read a page of the Ghana Highway Code if you are a professional driver. Because when I am lecturing, for instance, I tend to quiz them a lot to give me the meaning of no stopping, no parking, and no waiting. And honestly speaking, out of about 80 people, you have 1 or 2 people giving you the right information.
Wow.
Right. But yes, they are all in the highway code. A highway code is not bad, but I feel it's time for us to look at it and upgrade it and stop reprinting from 1974.
Which specific aspects of the highway code do you feel are most in need of change to reflect the times?
Oh, at least we should have a lot more of pictorials, okay, actual pictorials. I'll give you a nice example, like who has the right to go. If you look at a place like the American Embassy where you have a Y junction,
right.
Okay, yes, it's really confusing when you get there. You look at other intersections, you would realize that no, I mean, we need proper education on it. So if we have pictures in the highway code and we have some few explanations, I think we'll be moving towards the right direction. So Kafui, give me the contract and I will work on it for you.
Did you just bid live on television, Cecil? You're incorrigible. And I was just about to come with to Kafui on that bid before I come back to you, Cecil. Kafui, how do you respond to that? That our Ghana Highway Code is a bit antiquated, if you like, and Cecil is calling for more pictorial effect. Do you think we can do more of that for the highway code moving forward? And do you think he has a point?
Oh, yes, he has a point. Now, if you look at the highway code was issued by the Ghana Highway Authority.
Authority, yeah.
Yeah. Now, we have also realized that it has to be improved. So there is some review ongoing. We've not gotten to the stakeholder involvement yet. So very soon, people like Cecil will be involved in the process so that we all come up with a new highway code. And talking about introducing more pictorial illustrations, we have even started doing that in our theory test. Because you find out that worded questions, really, sometimes you may read about 3 lines, and it will take you some time to reason about it before you can even go choose an answer. We are introducing more pictorial questions. The idea of training and testing is not to, let's say, fail people, but is to develop their competence, knowledge, and skills. So the more you introduce pictorial questions, the more you introduce pictorial illustrations to the highway code, it will help people to remember what they've been taught, and then they can apply those on the road. Now, talking about behavior, for instance, what you just spoke to Henry about, it also goes down to training and enforcement. If you want to correct behavior, you start with training, you must hold people responsible for what they do. If that is missing, you can do all the training, but people will still continue to do, and that is the nature of human beings anyway. Until you are inspecting, they will not comply. Just yesterday, when your team called me, I was on the way to Cape Coast. And if you see how some drivers behave on the road, and you ask yourself, do they even value their own lives to value the life of people on their vehicle? Now, I was very behind about 3 long vehicles. A vehicle from nowhere overtook all of us. And there was a vehicle approaching, but he doesn't mind. That vehicle approaching has to stop somewhere for him to pass. So if enforcement doesn't go with training, we'll have less of the training impact. I know the Ghana Police Service are doing their best, but we have to get to a point where drivers or on their own know that if I do this, I'll get punished for it. Or if I do this, it is not safe for me, it's not safe for other road users. And that is where I think the collaboration should be working towards. And there are a lot of things the National Road Safety Authority is thinking of, the DVLA and the police. And once we start to collaborate with the institutions with license to train, we should be seeing more impact. Because yes, if you see that now the 3 state agencies are collaborating well, we need to bring in the training institutions to also help us do what we need to do. And I think that the campaigns that Joy FM is running with the National Road Safety and the DVLA, the police, are also things that we want to broaden so that, the impact is felt.
I'm going to be taking your final comments on this discussion, I mean, the way forward. But I'll stay with you, Kafui, to give your final comments. And I just want you to weave in the bit about, so those who are unlettered or unschooled and they drive or they have been driving, what processes do you take them through for licensing? And could you also just add the national average when it comes to the fail or pass rates in our exams? I mean, do you have an idea what the national average is?
Okay. So those who do not have formal education, and we don't classify anybody as literate or not literate, because if somebody speaks, let's say, Chi, and you do not speak Chi, you are literate in that area. However, there is opportunity for everybody to train in the language you understand.
Right.
So the instructors are not restricted to use a particular language for training. Whilst you are fluent in a particular language and the learner is also fluent or can understand, you can instruct in that language. The next level is that soon.
So do you actually deliver such training in the local languages and all of that?
So the training schools do.
Okay.
Yes, the training schools do. The next level is that the theory test for now is in English. And that may be even some of the reasons you see that a lot more people will apply for the first stage and may not even come for the second stage. So you see that people at the second stage where you have to do your theory test and do your practical test, the numbers keep reducing. What we are doing as of now, and very soon we will announce when we are implementing it, is that we are getting approval from the Ministry of Finance to upgrade our existing theory test to include 6 Ghanaian languages, which are Ga, Ewechi, Hausa, Agbani, and then Nzima.
Okay, all right.
Once this is done, we are also moving away from the system where you have to use the mouse to select an answer. We are introducing touch screens because basically these categories of persons, if they have a phone, they are able to tap on the phone to dial numbers. The languages are going to come in voice. So you don't have to read in that language, you just have to listen to the person in that language, and then you tap the answer. So those that the interventions we are bringing.
Can you just quickly sneak in, for the sake of time, my apologies. Okay. Can you just sneak in the national average if you have it?
The national average is also around 80%.
Around 80%. For both theory and practice?
Yes, for both theory and practice.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. A minute each to Cecil and Henry, just with your summary comments. I'll start with you, Cecil.
Well, it's all about road safety, and I feel that the 4 technical E's must work. Okay. That's engineering of the roads, education, enforcement, emergency services, so that we save lives and then we all arrive in one piece and not in pieces.
Interesting, the 4 E's. Henry, for you, what would be your parting comments?
Thank you very much. I think it is in this light of attitudinal change for road users. That is why the National Road Safety Authority, together with the DVLA, the police, and the media and other stakeholders, came up with this Stay Alive campaign, which seeks to drum a lot of positive behavior into the minds of road users, so that with time we know that their attitude and their conscience will be appealed to, so that the attitudes can change on our road. Right. And as I always say, that it is better to be late than to be called delayed, and it is better to be patient than to be a patient at the hospital.
Well, let's all stay alive. Let's go through the right channels, do the right things on our roads, and, of course, safeguard all our lives. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Of course, the last person you heard there, Henry Asumaning, of course, with the National Road Safety Authority, Cecil Gabra, CEO, Top Tech Transport and Logistics, and, of course, Kafui Semevo, who is also with the DVLA. Gentlemen, thank you so much for engaging us this morning. When we return, we're going to be talking about teenage pregnancy, safe abortions, and what is happening in some parts of the country. Africa Education Watch is talking about the fact that on average for about 5 years now, we've been having over 100,000 of these incidents. What is the picture nationally? How do we resolve some of these issues? That is up next on the AM Show. Do stay.
Getting to 3 months, and I call the guy, but he said that I should keep the pregnancy, but I'm not seeing any action of him. So I don't want my mother should say that something is going on. So because of that, I use some stick and I've inserted it so that the baby will come out.
The voice of a young woman who almost lost her life to unsafe abortion. It is for this reason that the Oti Regional Health Directorate is embarking on a campaign to sensitize chiefs, religious leaders, and other stakeholders on the need to embrace and encourage pregnant women and girls to rather opt for safe abortion services provided at the various health facilities in the region. In year 2021, 258 teenagers were involved in various forms of abortion across the region, while 886 adults who did not want their pregnancies also did same. Dr. Jose Kufuor is the Oti Regional Health Director.
Today we are holding a stakeholders meeting to discuss integration of safe abortion services, which we call comprehensive abortion care, into our routine healthcare delivery, so that people who need services for abortion can walk into our health institutions and then have the services rendered. I know this sounds a little bit strange to many people. The reason for this is that we have realized that there is a lot of unsafe abortions going on in the country, and our data is showing even in the Oti region that there are a lot of abortions going on in the country.
He also argues that the disparity in age for consent for sex and the legal age to get married as one of the factors responsible for the increasing phenomenon among adolescents.
These are age groups that we don't expect them to be getting pregnant and having babies, which will offset their academic achievements and also their own progress into adulthood. Per our laws, adulthood starts from 18 years, so people can marry at 18. So if sex is permissible at 16, marriage is permissible at 18, then between 16 and 18, when the young ladies are having sex, then what should happen? When sex itself is the one that drives pregnancy. But our data is showing that our teenage pregnancy is almost 15% for the OT region. So it is very sad that our teenagers who are supposed to be in school are getting pregnant. And about 90-95% of these pregnancies are unwanted.
Dr. Afre thinks this law needs a review, but also has a word of advice for men who are the main agents behind this worrying situation.
And I think that is one of the things as a country we should be looking at, if it's possible to revise this, so that at least the ages will align, so that when you can have sex, it's maybe the same time you can also get married, so that we are able to avert some of the problems we have for the 16, 17-year-olds who can have sex but are not allowed to get married. Pregnancy is not a disease that a woman will be walking around and suddenly becomes pregnant. So even though we are aiming at preventing unwanted pregnancy and providing safe abortion services, we are also reaching out to our men. I mean, it includes all of us, that at least we also should be disciplined and also make sure that we leave these young children, young girls alone.
Peter Sen for Joy News.
And that is our situation, the picture in the OT region. And it left me, grinding my teeth when that girl, young girl, innocent, was talking about the fact that, to terminate her pregnancy, she was sticking a stick in her genitals. It goes on to tell you about education and where we're getting it wrong. But let's get a proper picture as we go to the touch screen now. Isaac Ofieje is on hand as always. Good morning, Isaac.
Good morning, Ben.
Right. So you're going to be walking us through the teenage pregnancy statistics for a 5-year period, 2016 inclusive, all the way to 2020. And at the end, we're also going to look at the abortion rates. All right. So let's quickly do that.
So let's start with teenage pregnancy. Between 2016 and 2020 inclusive, more than 500,000 teenagers got pregnant within this period. Now, if you break this down into age categories, 10 to 14 years, 13,444. And then teenagers between the ages of 15 to 19 years, 542,131, just between 2016 and 2020. Now, let's do a regional breakdown of this number. The same period, we are using the same period. So Ashanti region is leading with 89,856, teenage pregnancies within this period. Eastern region, 56,730. Central region, 56,443. Greater Accra region, 49,356. Western region, 43,921.
This is interesting. If we could just go back to that briefly. So the Ashanti region there, almost 90,000, almost double what we have in the Greater Accra region.
Exactly.
Right. So
that's just between 2016 and
2020. Right.
89,856. That's
on to the next one then. Let's get to the very next.
So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so now we have Northern region following with 43,533. Upper East region, this is the number. Volta region, 30,333. Bono East, 28,284. And then Bono region, 22,944. within the period under review. Western North follows with 20,101 pregnancies within the period under review. OT region, 19,248.
And that's the region in focus for today.
Exactly, OT region. And Upper West, 18,225. Northeast region, 16,695. And Savannah, 16,601. And the least being Ahafo region, having 12,861. Now, globally, let's look at, teenage mothers, percentage of teenage mothers aged 15 to 19 years who have children or are currently pregnant. So this is for Ghana. Let's focus on Ghana. These figures are for Ghana. So in 1980, this was a picture for Ghana in 1988. In 1988, we had 23% of our teenagers, being pregnant within this period. And then the next estimation was in 1993, where we had a decline from 23 to 21.5% in 1933. And then from 1933 to 2008, it's been good actually, from a decline from 21.5 to 13.3 in 2008. But Ben, just look at this. From 2008 to 2016, there was a rise. There could be reasons for this, but from 2008 to 2014, where the next estimate was done, there was an increase from 13.3%
to 14.2%.
14.2%. Right. And then 2016, we went back to 17.8, and the latest figure being 16.1.
Let's go to slide 16 now and find out what exactly is there when it comes to the abortion facts and figures.
So let's look at the abortion facts and figures, since that's our focus for today. This is the global figures we have. So globally, about 4 in 10 of all pregnancies are unintended, and more than half of these end in induced abortion. 4 in 10, that's 40%. Now, if you look at the next slide, it talks about the breakdown of abortions. Globally, 55% of all abortions conducted are safe, whilst 45% are unsafe. And worldwide, 1 in 4 pregnancies, that's 25%, ends in abortion. And of those abortions, nearly half, that's 45%, are unsafe. So we have the total number of abortions in a year annually, 45% of them being unsafe, under the period under review. Now, let's look at the global figure. So globally, every year, 56 million, teenagers, abortions are conducted. And then just look at the breakdown between developing countries and developed countries. 49 million of the 56 million are from developing countries.
Like Ghana.
Exactly. And just 6.6 million, of all the abortions conducted in a year are from developed countries. Now, if you stagger it in terms of safe and unsafe abortion, there's 56 million abortions which are conducted every year globally. 45% of them are unsafe. Now, if you come to, if you stagger it in terms of developing and developed countries, 50% of all abortions conducted in developing countries are unsafe. And that's something we have to be concerned about. Now, the next slide talks about, we are focusing on developing countries. In developing countries, annually, 60% of all pregnancies end up in live birth, whilst 14% of all pregnancies, end up being miscarriage or stillbirth, and then 26% are induced pregnancy.
So I think we'll leave it there. But the point of interest being that the staggering numbers, over 50 million of these happening, 56 million or so, and 49 million of them in the developing world. Interestingly, Kofi, so I don't support abortion, but the point is that it's legally permissible in the country, and it can be. It's just that if it ought to be performed, it ought to be performed under certain conditions, at a government hospital, registered private hospital, or something of the sort. But the figures are indeed worrying that we are seeing, especially from the OT region. But thank you so much for joining us with those details. And we shall, of course, follow up on these issues, paint a bigger or broader picture nationally, especially as, like we've shared, Africa Education Watch is also talking about the fact that about 100,000 of that 500,000 plus component of those at the GHS level are also getting pregnant, which can only lead to disaster as a country. Where do we go from here? Well, only time will tell. Do stay with us. We'll return from the break, and when we do, we're talking about our classroom project. You can contribute to help us make the dreams come true for some students who are suffering where their schools are situated. We'll be right back with more after the break. Welcome back, and it's a serious matter we're about to be discussing now as we wrap up the show. It has to do with our classroom project and how we can prevent some of the disasters that we've seen in recent years. Joining me in the studio, my own colleague, Emefa Atiamwa Eli, will be telling us about our classroom project here at the Multimedia Group. Good morning, Emefa.
Good morning, Benjamin.
You're looking dashing this morning.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to be telling our viewers about the state of work and all of that, but there's a report that we have on this entire development that we're going to be showing to you up next, and after that we'll get into the real state of work. So do check out this report. We'll be back.
So why didn't they put the thing on the product? Why did I go through this trouble of scripting?
That's why I quickly asked you.
To start, while the men dug for the foundation works, mixed concrete and molded blocks, the women fetched water among doing other auxiliary jobs to ensure progress of each day's work on site. A total of 51,000 Ghana cedis has been raised from a target of 155,000 Ghana cedis for two different classroom projects. 80% of materials needed for work to begin at the Breman Jamra site has been assembled out of the initial 51,000 Ghana cedis mobilized. With the help of an excavator and a tipper truck, the laterites required for the molding of the hydroform blocks were moved to site on the 30th of December 2021. Other materials including cement, 6-inch blocks, sand, chippings, iron rod and wood have also been assembled. Residents could not hold back their joy. They commended the Multimedia Group for committing to helping them rebuild the dilapidated school block.
I'm a assemblyman in my Jamla electoral area. Now, sending another nippon for it. You are a monfire school there. I can even come up as any Methodist one. And I say, I'm back Multimedia for to run a moment. They have come to site. I'm what the material they go on. I'm what the
I am the assemblyman for the Jamera electoral area. The Multimedia Group has come to site with the needed materials to build a school for us. We are grateful to Multimedia for the project. We hope it is completed on time.
I am very excited after seeing the materials that will be used to construct the new school block.
The project engineer and hydroform technology expert Samuel Kofi Agenyega is optimistic. All things being equal, work will be completed on schedule.
If we don't have or we don't face any harsh weather conditions, latest by 1st week of February, we should be done with the project. So we are grateful. I mean, we are all supporting. And then those of you who are also bringing in the support, we urge that continue bringing them because we need it now to complete it within the estimated time.
Progress of work requires additional support, both in cash and in kind. The Jamrahene Nana Fusu III, expressing appreciation for work done so far, emphasized the need for more support.
I stand here on behalf of the Jamra people that we are so grateful to them for helping us in this manner. We will continue to ask humbly to everybody to also come and help us.
The classroom project is supported by the Israeli Embassy, Forestry Commission, the Planned City Extension Project, DBS roofing sheets, and all who have so far donated to support the project. The Multimedia's Classroom Project is brought to you in partnership with the Star Ghana Foundation and the West Africa Civil Society Institute under the Giving for Change project, with funding from the Dutch Foreign Affairs Ministry. The Classroom Project, promoting social justice through philanthropy. Amafa Ewenam Atiamwa Eli for Joy News. Brima Jamra.
And philanthropy, that is what we're calling on you to do. That was MFS Package. She's in the studio now. Do tell us, so what is the state of work as far as this project is concerned?
Thank you very much, Benjamin. So the last video you saw in that package, you see a number of bricks that have been molded. That is where we are now. Those bricks are going to be laid. You don't, in normal construction, you would require cement, sand to be able to piece or put the blocks together.
The blocks together.
In this instance, it's not going to be like that. Just like you have a puzzle, children trying to lay bricks in that order, that's how it's going to be done. You wouldn't need cement in doing that. So fortunately, we are done with the foundation where you do the laying, you raise the ground blocks, and then you fill, you cast, and then you start the laying. So we have, we need in all about 7,000 blocks to be able to raise 3 classroom units. Okay.
7,000 blocks.
7,000 blocks to be able to raise 3 classroom units.
So that's just about 2,000 plus for each block unit.
Exactly. So as it stands, all about we have more than half the number of the bricks required for the laying to start. So if you can check in that video, you see directly we have the video, the foundation properly laid out, and so the engineers and then the the laborers or masons are on standby to start the laying for you to see the picture, the real picture of the school blocks.
So the project is developing. I mean, we have, of course, the foundation and everything, and now the blocks are coming.
Another interesting thing about this project is that you don't have your everyday commercial laborers, who are on site doing work. This is being done by the community people themselves. What we call communal labor, and so they are contributing their bits. I know a lot more people have given to support this project, and you'll be wondering, what is the state of the project or the things I have given for this project? What are we using it for? And so this is to just let you know that really the people and the community people are so excited. If you saw the reports we played earlier, you heard it from, you saw the women,
even the chief and all of that, and how grateful
so that is
they
the spirit in the community. And so you have people coming on site with the leadership of the hydroform expert you heard in the video talking about the timeline and all of that, leading the construction on site. So it's quite interesting. We have our cement, we have our iron rod, we have the wood, we have, I mean, the major things you need, except maybe for the finishing touches, you are talking about the roofing, the ceiling, the doors and all of that. All of these are outstanding things that have to be brought on board.
So the roofing, the ceiling, doors, and I'm sure some electrical work and all of that, those are outstanding.
Exactly. So you do not want to say we are done. There is a lot more to be done. And so wherever you are, you want to be a part. And this project is going to benefit about 700 pupils, 700 in 2 different
in the Jamra community.
In Jamra community, we are looking about 400.
400 of
and
them.
Then in Tolon, just a little above that number, a little below that number. Okay, so and the current structure within which they are studying is not the best at all. In Jamra, for instance, we have told the story earlier. If you see the school block, there are holes in the ceiling, the walls are
cracks
falling
on the
apart,
walls,
and the children complain about sitting in an environment like that, poor ventilation, especially when it's about raining, you are afraid, am I okay? Particularly because Jamra has a story. You know about this incident of 6 kg people dying as a result of
being crushed to death.
Exactly. So that memory is still there, I mean, among the pupils. So you wake up, you're going to school, the block is not healthy, and you are wondering, would I be able to? And the parents are equally worried. I can understand. We all say, oh, government should do, build school, remove schools under trees, rehabilitate the weak ones. Yes. But the question is, how many of these structures would the government be able to remove within what time space?
And that is why we need to also contribute our quota, and that is why the multimedia group has
so this entire project is about philanthropy, the little you can give, and also to make a statement that you do not necessarily have to rely on the central government to get some basic things in your community done, not at all.
Right.
And so the little you have, 3 units classroom block, a community for over, if I'm not lying, over almost 1,000 people. If somebody brings a block, somebody brings cement, somebody brings water, somebody brings shovel, wheelbarrow, you should be able to do something.
Little drops of water make a mighty ocean, they say. And we can all contribute to make this happen. But let's talk about the needed support and those sponsors that have come on board so far. So what is needed now? I mean, how can people contribute, for example? Are they welcome to bring items? Is it cash? Give us a breakdown.
Absolutely. The Bremen sites in all, we need about 74,000 cities to finish that specific project.
74,000
The
cities.
Bremen site. Okay. As we speak, we've been able to mobilize 51,000 cities. It means we have almost an outstanding amount of about 23,000 to be able to raise. And so we are saying that you shouldn't give up because the project is not done yet.
It's not done yet.
We need, what's the name? Facial boards for the roofing. We need, we have had to engage additional experts in terms of the laying of the blocks. So these ones, because it's a special area in terms of hydrofoam technology, you can't have the ordinary community members doing that. And so these people are traveling from far to the site to get the work done. Really, we are not, it's not like we are paying them, but then their upkeep, they would stay in the community for not less than a week, you know, to be able to do that. Where they will sleep, where they will eat, you want to be able to help them. Same applies to Tolon. Tolon needs to be able to, their structure is not as dilapidated, except that it's uncompleted. So they don't have doors, they don't have windows. They lack an office for the teachers, what we call the staff common room. And so it means that we are looking at cement, we are looking at sand, we are looking at chippings, gravel, anything you can think about, you know, all of these things is required.
So we need a lot more support. Who are those who have helped us so far in terms of sponsorship?
I would first of all would like to extend our appreciation to the Israeli embassy. They've been so supportive. We appreciate the work, the support so far. The Plan City extension project, they've come on board. They've been so helpful. We appreciate them. The Forestry Commission, all the wood we need. I mean, when you are talking about the lentil, the wood, the profiling, those basic wood activity,
they have provided
They have provided all of that, and we say a big thank you to them. And I know a lot more people have also donated through Momo number. I've seen people donating 200, 100 cities, 50 cities, whatever. So we say we appreciate it. And so until it is complete, we want to.
So we are not going to relax.
We are
how can people contribute? How can they?
So the Momo number is 059-303-8832.
I think you'd have to take that slowly.
Exactly. I'll take it again. 059-303-8832. And the name you find on that account is the multimedia group Joy FM. Let me take it again. 059-303-8832. And then maybe you would want to call directly and make further inquiries or engagements. You can call 030-22 11688 03022 11688. When you call, you say you want to speak to whoever is the person in charge of the classroom project. I mean, it will come to me.
Right.
You know, whatever inquiries you want to make.
And the further details, of course, will be on your screens, so that if you'd like to make a contribution, and
lest I forget,
you to do
let me
that,
also mention that DBS is supporting us with a roofing sheet.
Right.
DBS Industries. We appreciate them so much.
Thank you so much, MFA Atiamwa Eli, for joining us on the Classroom Project. Right before I go, though, if you love my elegant dress this morning, it was put together by Catherine Gordon of Catherine Garments, Medina New Road. Thank you so much. She's around the Rawlings Circle. Her number, 0277 580 050. 0277 580 050. On Instagram, Catherine_Garments and Catherine Garments GH on Facebook. This is how we draw the curtains on the AM show for this beautiful morning. We're grateful for your company. Do stay with us as we bring you the rest of our programming. Have a good day.